people are talking about, we're going to go into Iran to overthrow their government, and we think that's going to help us out. Only problem is that didn't work last time. It's not a super widely known fact because it hasn't been long enough to have made it into the history books, and it was a pretty hush-hush kind of thing when it happened, so it wasn't front-page news. But in 1953, we actually overthrew the Iranian government. See, what happened was the British had British Petroleum at the time. It was the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, and Iran. There was a guy named Mossadegh who was the democratically elected prime minister, and he said, we're going to nationalize the oil company. The English came in, they tried to colonize us, they've been taking our oil, we're not allowed to look at the books to even make sure we're getting a fair cut. And so Mossadegh said, we are going to just nationalize the oil company. And Britain said, you can't do that. Britain didn't say that immediately because they were busy in the same year nationalizing their steel industry and their coal mining industry. So they were very keen on nationalizing industries as long as it was England doing it. But you could not nationalize in industry where they wanted to take all of your money. Unfortunately, MI6, those are the guys who employed James Bond, didn't have the resources to mount an operation on their own. So they went to Eisenhower and they said, they're commies. And he bought them. Now, the only reason that they could claim that they were commies was because Mossadegh hadn't outright banned the Communist Party in Iran. Because he was a free-thinking liberal who said, well, people should have freedom of speech and be able to say whatever they want. People should be allowed to go in the streets and say, hey, I'm a member of the Communist Party, not get thrown in jail for it. But by golly, Ike was an American, and he was going to have none of that. So because the Communist Party had not been outright banned and its people thrown in jail for sort of peacefully handing out flyers and saying, hey, you want to join the Communist Party? Ike decided that we were going to overthrow their entire government. So we sent in our crack top CIA leader, Kermit Roosevelt. Yes, our crack top CIA agent was named Kermit. I'm sorry for it, but that's part of our history. They sent him with a giant safe of $1 million. Now, $1 million now is nothing. $1 million is an accident that Halliburton forgot to steal. It's not even enough to buy one politician. But at the time, I mean, this is 1953, $1 million bought a lot. It bought the entire Iranian government, for example. Now, he goes out in the country in the middle of nowhere in Iran and says, hey, you guys are small town boys. Who wants to go to the big city? Tehran, it's a nice place. We'll pay for buses, we'll pay for food. Everybody said, hey, sounds like a nice vacation. What do we have to do? All right, we're going to have TV cameras. What you need to do is shout, death to Mossadegh. You only need to be there for about an hour during the evening news. So we had them bust into the city, and next thing you know, there's riots going on in the streets. Everybody hates Mossadegh. All the coverage in the news says that there's this massive upheaval going on in Iran, which for some reason only took place right about the time of the evening news. And every time you see an outrageous riot going on in a Middle Eastern country where people are going, death to the creator of a cartoon in a newspaper I've never read or something. Remember, we taught them how to get that to happen. So we wind up overthrowing their government. Mossadegh is kicked out, the democratically elected leader. And the king was a Shah Pahlavi, who we had installed during the 1940s. During the World War II, England and Russia had actually invaded. We were officially not involved, but thanks to the Lend-Lease Act, a lot of American tanks were involved in us not being involved. When we kicked out his father because he didn't want to give all of his oil to England. So we set up the Shah that we know. We set him up, we established him as the leader, and we convinced him to set up his head general as prime minister, enacting a very restrictive military government in Iran, replacing the democratically elected government that we decided didn't suit our purposes. Now, this was not great. Eventually, the Shah was interviewed on American television because he was very friendly with the United States. He spoke fluent English because he was basically our puppet. And he was asked by the interviewer, Dan Rather, about rumors of torture going on in Iran. A direct quote from the Shah that we installed in the government. Torture? Well, not yesterday. Literally, that was the strongest anti-torture claim that his government could make, that it had not happened in the preceding 24 hours. So, in in 1979, exactly 25 years after we had installed the show, taken over the country because we wanted to ensure access to oil supply. The exact year that the oil contracts we had established were running out. As a fun coincidence, exactly that year we were trying to renew the oil contracts that would give us limitless access to the Iranian oil again, which the Shah was fine with because we were supplying them with all sorts of weapons and military funding and this, that, and the other. Exactly that year, when the oil contracts ran out, the Iranian Revolution happened. Chaos in the streets, madness, and it did not happen only during the evening news this time. They were actually pissed, because after 25 years living under authoritarian rule with the Savak, his secret police, Savak, it's Iranian secret police, not a character from Star Trek, I promise. Now, they were just out of their minds. And then during the late 1970s, in 79 when this happened, and during the beginning of the 80s, oil prices skyrocketed. All because we decided to overthrow a Middle Eastern government. So, if you're thinking, hey, we invaded Iraq, we're supposed to have access to all this oil in this country we conquered, isn't gas supposed to be cheap? Just remember, it's never played out that way before. We've tried a couple times. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That is